great to have you here for another NTA Australia New Zealand podcast episode. I'm Sarah Fieschi, the founder of Food Spirit Wellness and assistant instructor for the NTA Australia New Zealand. Today, I'm joined by Adam and Josh Bigelsen, who are continuing the legacy of their father, Dr. Harvey Bigelsen, through the Bigelsen Academy. Their work is grounded in the understanding that true health goes far beyond the absence of disease. And it's about creating a state of deep physical, mental, and social well-being. Adam and Josh, it's wonderful to have you with us.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes, great to be invited. Thanks for having us here.
It's our pleasure. To kick off our conversation today, I'd love to start with your father. For those who may not be familiar with his work, can you share who he was, the path he walked, and how his work impacted lives and continues to impact lives today?
Sure.
Yeah, we can do that. Adam?
We can do that. Yes, okay, that's mine, I guess. Yeah, our dad, at some point would love to do a documentary on his life. He lived a life, to say the least. And Josh and I, we watched the whole thing. This has been our lives. At one point, Andy Kaufman, Tom Cowan had us an event, and Tom asked Josh, he said, "When did the terrain start for you guys?" And Josh said, "I've never really known any different." I saw my dad when I was younger. Dad was a rich eye surgeon. He had everything he'd ever wanted, and he was near suicidal. He had arrived as far as what he thought was the American dream. And to go back a little before that, our father was very high functioning. He took a math placement test in fourth grade, and by accident he did the 12th grade test, and he got 100% and did not show any work. So of course he was accused of cheating, and he was given another test, and he got 100% and did not show any work. So very unique mind, brain. Josh, myself, our sister, all of us as children crying with our father trying to help us with our math homework because we didn't get it like he got it. All right. So schooling for him was interesting, medical school. He would ask questions, and they would say, "Read the book." And he'd say, "I think the book is wrong." So he was questioning things, and medical school for him, he was taught first year how a normal body, second year abnormal body, but was never taught how one became the other. So he really questioned things. Questions his schooling. At one point, he gets drafted to Vietnam, and we've heard about lies of Vietnam and things, and he goes to Vietnam and he sees the lies the government is telling the world. So now he questions his government. And then even as he was there, he was an eye surgeon. Eyes come last in the surgery there. So he was put as head of mass casualties. So the helicopters would land, and Dad was the guy who would decide who they could help and who they couldn't, who would live and who would die. And in his hospital in a time of war, they had a 98% survival rate. He came back to the United States and saw they didn't have that survival rate in the United States in times of not a war experience. So he questions schooling, questions the government, questions the whole medical system. All right. And he's going to get answers. At one point, this is funny, Mom says, "I want to go see a psychic," and Dad's not into that. He's very square. Left brain, right brain, Josh? I forget.
Very left brain, Adam.
Thank you. Right is wrong. Someday I'll remember that. He's a numbers guy. For him, chiropractors are crazy. That's just weird. So Mom wants to see a psychic, and Dad, happy wife, happy life. Great, see a psychic. Mom goes to see the psychic, and the first thing he says to our mother is, "I need to meet your husband. We need to talk." So Dad meets the psychic. The psychic introduces Dad to the work of Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce is America's most famous psychic, and they call him the sleeping prophet. People would come to him with health issues. He would go into a trance or go to sleep. He would talk, and his wife would take notes. And he would talk about people's health issues. People would act on the notes, and they would get better. He was very famous for this. So Dad started to study Edgar Cayce's medical readings. You can find them and you can read them. And Dad saw patterns. He started to learn things, and he was very excited. And he took our family. He was a rich eye surgeon. We took a 70% cut in pay. He moved us from Princeton, New Jersey to Scottsdale, Arizona, to the Wild West. And he works with an ARE clinic. This is an Edgar Cayce clinic. And he becomes a homeopath, and he's excited. He's learning new things. And it was interesting. I remember as a kid, him coming home from work. This person came in with this, and we did this, and this happened. He was so excited. And even asking him questions. Hey, Dad, did you ever work with this? I said muscular dystrophy, because I would watch the Jerry Lewis telethons for those of us that are older and remember these things. And he said, yeah, I've worked with that. And I said, tell Jerry Lewis. And he said, Jerry Lewis isn't interested. And I said, why? He said, because then he's going to lose his job. This was weird for me. I remember looking at the encyclopedia and looking up chronic diseases and asking my dad this and this, and he had worked with every single one of them and had results. And I said, but it's chronic. They can't do anything. And he said, that's their truth. That's not my truth. So he's excited. He's learning. At one point, Arizona is like the Wild West. This is the late 80s. So anyone could call themselves a homeopath. Dad and his friends get together. And Arizona was the first state that had a law that separated the AMA, American Medical Association, from the American Holistic Medical Association. And our father co-authored that law. He helped write a law to change medicine in the United States. And as he was doing this, the district attorney called him and said to him, you keep using this word holistic. We don't know what that means. He defined the word holistic for the Arizona legal system. He included acupuncture and chiropractic and cranial sacral work and all this stuff that has been around forever. So Dad helps write a law. The American Holistic Medical Association is separate from the American Medical Association. The AMA has no jurisdiction over them, and they do not like that. They have a lot of power.
He created the first homeopathic board in the United States.
Yes.
He was the first president of that board, and he gave out the first homeopathic medical license in the United States. So he legitimized homeopathy, back in the Wild West. I think that was early mid 80s. Yes. And then, of course, I think at some point in the interview, we'll talk about where alternative medicine has gone now. But initially, he definitely legitimized it, certainly in Arizona, which was really nice.
Yeah, it was actually in 1978 and 1981. So late 70s, early 80s. Our father was the first president of the Homeopathic Medical Association, gave out the first homeopathic medical licenses. So in the United States, there are homeopathic medical doctors. They have MD training and homeopathic training. All right. Like I said before, anyone could call themselves a homeopath. So now you had to have some anatomy background, things like that. And he was doing great things. If anyone in the US listens to these podcasts, you can find homeopathic MDs. And if they're old enough, our dad's signature is on their license. Great things. Now he's going and he's working and he's excited and he's doing things. And at one point he gets taken on a trip around the world to experience alternative treatments and therapies outside the United States. He ends up with Gaston Naessens, a physicist in Canada that uses this microscope. And Dad looks into the microscope and sees the blood alive. He's never seen this before. In Western medicine, conventional medicine, they stain the blood. They fix that sample so you can always refer back to it. But that changes things. And Dad had never seen these things moving in the blood. He was so excited, he said he got chills. And he comes home from Naessens and he's so excited, he doesn't know what to do. He wants to get a microscope, and I get sick. All right, I get mononucleosis so bad I'm showing minor signs of hepatitis, and I'm a week away from going to college. So my dad, he's freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. He finds a German doctor that uses this microscope. And the German doctor is living on a Native American reservation. And this German doctor, flew in the Luftwaffe. He's an ex-Nazi living in Arizona on a Native American reservation. He's hiding out, more or less. But the Native Americans call him the Great Spirit, right? He comes in, he works on my case with Dad. Things change immediately. I go to college. Dad says, you're going to work in my office, to this doctor. So Dad, they work together. Not really, Dad's trying to learn and study from him, but he's not really sharing things. But now,
So his
all of
first teacher was an ex-Nazi, and we're a nice Jewish family. So we've
yes.
definitely had an interesting ride in life.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, we can talk about this for, like I said, a documentary should be done. So you're getting the crash course. But this is important to see for people to hear what he did. This is not a fly-by-night experience. Okay, this came from decades of investigation. And we have done this for a long time. So either way, as Dad's doing this, he's excited. I get sick. Dr. Ploeg, Friedrich Ploeg, works with the microscope, and my case is a miracle case. Dad wants to learn from him, doesn't go so well, but then at this point in the late 80s, all of a sudden, Ryan O'Neal and Farrah Fawcett and the cast of Dynasty and Dallas are coming to my dad's clinic because they know this doctor. They follow him. He does regenerative medicine. And when the award shows come up, these famous people go and he makes them look young and pretty, right? So either way, Dad's going, something's going on here. So Ploeg goes back to Berlin when the Berlin Wall comes down and Dad feels lost. And we don't believe in coincidences. A 4 foot tall German woman walks in our clinic with big red hair and high heels and a flowing black cape and a diamond encrusted cigarette holder. And she says, I am here. And we have no idea who this person is, right? Silke Friedrich. She happens to work with the microscope. So now she starts to work with Dad, and now she's working with Dad. But Dad's not believing what he's seeing, right? Dad just doesn't believe things. He's an open-minded skeptic. He wants to see repeatedly. He wants to understand. And what happens with him is interesting. They're working together on a patient. Dad takes the patient's blood, looks in the microscope, and says to the patient, how's your digestion? He's guessing because he doesn't know what's going on there yet. And the Silke would, you'd have Dad, client, Silke on the other side, and Dad would say digestion, and Silke would kind of shake her head. How's your circulation? She'd shake her head. You broke a bone, and she'd kind of pull her ear, like she's kind of coaching him. And at one point, she says to the patient, she asks about his broken arm, and he says, I never told you I broke my arm. So Dad says to her, or to the patient, can you excuse me? I need to talk to the doctor. And he says, how did you know that? And she points in the microscope, and there's an image that looks just like a broken arm. So these are the holograms, right? And Dad he doesn't believe it. This goes on for a year, all right? She is seeing things in the blood that are directly related to the person's issue. And even more so, it's the cause, all right? There it is, right in front of his eyes. So he finally gets it. He's excited. Now he's doing it. He's thrilled. All right. Now life changes again. And the dates here, let me see here. Medicare comes to him, which is insurance in the United States, and says, you should provide Medicare, like take the insurance. And Dad says, I don't know how to code what I do.
Yeah, they told him we don't understand. They told him we don't understand your treatments, and they taught him the codes to use. So they told him the codes to use for his therapies, and then he's brought up on a random Medicare fraud audit several months later.
Yeah.
And there was 178 charges totaling like $1,500. I always get it wrong. Is it $1,700, $3,500? Totaling nothing basically. And it was a Medicare fraud felony, and he was given the choice of giving up his license or going to jail. So using the codes that they told him to use. So,
yes.
We don't generally get too much into it because conspiracy theories are great until they happen to you. But yes, he was obviously targeted and set up at that point in time.
And for people listening, there's a book called Medical Conspiracy in America. I think the PDF is out there for free. We literally wrote the book. Okay. And the things that went on even after this, random audit was not random. Okay. Dad gets to be on Dateline in 1992. There's only 5 networks of television, and Dateline is a big NBC News related show. And they have 3 segments. One is a person who saw Dad previously, and he died eventually. Another segment is a homeopathic doctor who's a quack. So they're going to go in with a hidden camera and a undercover reporter. There's nothing wrong with the reporter, but the homeopath is going to diagnose him because he's a quack. That was actually staged. You can see at one point the cameraman's on the side. There's no hidden camera there. So you see Dr. Bigelsen, death, and quack. You make the connection. And they interviewed our father for 6 hours. Our dad's brother was an allergist. He called up and he said, "You didn't answer the questions." And dad said, "Oh, yes, I did. In 1992, I saw what the news can do when they take whatever you say and edit it in any way they want to." Right?
Well, and they didn't say that the patient died many, many years later, and his wife was still a patient of my dad's and loved him.
Right.
So,
That patient said to my dad, they said to our father, "I think I want to go to what was the place they'd
Mayo
all go
Clinic.
to? The Mayo
Mayo Clinic.
Clinic." And dad said, "If you go to the Mayo Clinic, you're going to die." And he went to the Mayo Clinic and he died.
Mm.
Okay. And his wife was still a patient of our dad's. NBC got some of the most negative publicity in their history from that show. All right. In that time, actually, for people that were around, this is when famous actors, Suzanne Summers and Lindsay Wagner, and all these people were on Phil Donahue talking about alternative medicine. This was a result of what went on with our father. People started to come out and speak out. So it kind of backfired on them.
So he was always, we don't give too much energy to it anymore, but he was always being attacked for helping. He had charges brought against him for curing somebody illegally. And the medical board
Yeah.
actually stated they didn't care if the patient got better. They only cared that they didn't do it their way. He didn't do it their way. Charges brought against him for illegible handwriting. But that's like I said, we'll move along from that because it's more about the work he did than as opposed to the tax that he went through.
Yeah, and that's it.
So then,
You know,
anyways, we'll move on because this is a shortened interview for us, Adam.
this is
So we
this
can
is
we
just
usually
shutting me
talk
down.
about Dad's background. It takes 30 to 40 minutes, Sarah. So, and what happens is Adam talks a lot, then I interrupt, and then I talk too much, and Adam interrupts, and that's because we're brothers. So we'll move it along. So, Dad gives up his license, goes to Mexico. Mexico is it's a free trade zone, so you can do whatever you want. The Mexicans were very honest about saying, do what you want. If you hurt somebody, we're getting rid of you.
Yeah.
Right? So he can get any remedies that he wanted there. He was known for his cancer work there, and because he viewed cancer very differently. And he had over a 50% turnaround just in stage 4 cancers alone. So, he wrote a great article then called "Do Not Call Me Alternative." And basically, there's no alternative to the way nature works. Right. So, and we can get into what alternative actually means, but that's probably a story for another day. So he also wrote in that same article about never going back to the United States. Then he makes the mistake of going back to the United States. He doesn't have a license, so we work with an osteopath. Some of our remedies and treatments are legal in California, and some of them are legal in Nevada. So, of course, the interesting upbringing that we've had, Dad actually rented an office on state line where the state line went right through the office. So you got some of your remedies here in California, you walked across that line to the other side of the office to Nevada, you got the treatments that you needed. So we've had a pretty interesting upbringing. So he gets pretty big there. Goes on George Nuri, which was a big radio show at the time. Talks about dentists and how dentists don't understand how much they affect the body. And then a local dentist got angry and started calling up the medical board several times a week, reported my dad. So next thing, armed guards come into our office, take our microscopes, take our remedies. Takes us about 18 months. Parents lost their house. They had 15 charges against my father and I. They got one charge to stick, and that was we were using these porcine embryonic stem cells, so pig stem cells from France. They had an American label that came with it and a French label, so we put the American label on it. It did not say there was 5 cc's in the bottle, and that's false advertising in California. So one charge they got, we got no recourse whatsoever, and that was the end of that. So after the clinics closed down, Adam kind of went on an adventure, and here we are teaching the work. Happy not to work in clinics. We'll get into a little bit about what we're doing, later on in the interview, but now it's all about the education. But we find it's important to know where some of this work came from and what my father had to go through. And we always say we when we talk about this. When we say we, it's me and my brother, it's my father, it's Bechamp, Lamarck, all the people who came before him, Rudolf Steiner, all the people whose work preceded this. So part of our goal is to make sure our father's legacy is still alive and the legacy of these greats that came before him is still alive as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for walking us through, I guess that's sort of the historical path that you've all journeyed on together with your dad. And I can see how it will make a great documentary. And you guys just talk through it really, within 10, 15 minutes you've done that. And but I'm sure there's so much more that can be spoken of in terms of that journey. So phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that and giving us that background and that context in terms of your dad's work and how that has laid the base of where you guys are now. Um, what is one core principle from your father's work that you feel is most important for us as a collective to understand now? If you had to pull out one
Sure.
core
You got
It's
one? You got one,
point.
Josh?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's humans are so disconnected from nature these days, and we think we're separate from nature. And really, the core principle of the terrain work is that we evolve as nature does, and nature evolves through symbiosis. It does not evolve through antagonism. So everything is supportive. You know, the animal eats the plant has to evolve, and then the animal and the plant evolve together. So obviously, we delve heavily into microbiology and things like that, and it's all about symbiosis. There's nothing out there attacking us. All right. Nature is always self-regulating, self-healing, self-organizing. And humans need to remember that we are part of nature and that we evolve the same way that microbiology evolves the soils, the same way it evolves in our body. There is no difference. So I think that was really the basis for not calling him alternative because there is no alternative to how nature works. So to understand health, you have to understand nature.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the body is always working for you,
Mhm.
never against you.
And that's a nice segue to my next question in terms of our collective lack of understanding of our bodies, and health appears to run very deep in collective consciousness. Do you think we've lost a connection we once held or had it removed from our awareness, from the educational system, for example, and other systems? Or is this in fact part of the human journey of awakening to our own true nature?
Yeah,
And it
that's a
might
good
be an
Well,
question.
well,
amalgamation
well,
of
definitely, I'll
all
let you
those.
follow up on this one, Adam. But no, we even talk about this. Initially, it was like, this is a new paradigm. This is not a new paradigm at all.
Yeah.
This is all old ways that have worked, so this is not new. This is the way humans have always evolved. This is the way life has always evolved. Now, yes, over the past, bunch of years, we're certainly getting farther and farther and farther away from that, whether it's intentional or not, Adam. Doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah.
It does seem there's a concerted effort to teach things maybe incorrect, whether there's good intentions or bad intentions, maybe it's just ignorance, but these are things indigenous cultures still get this.
Yeah.
They're living off the land and they're in harmony with nature. So no, this is not new. It's about getting back to the old ways that actually worked for us.
Yeah, I just mentioned it recently as this is a time of the remembering.
Mhm.
We've really become so evolved and advanced that we have totally forgotten where we came from. And it's interesting, I've lived in Mexico for the last 6 years, and Mexico has some of the lowest cancer rates in the world. And the United States is number one. Why is there a line in the sand? Everyone over there is sick and not over there. It's a lifestyle thing. It's a different culture. Mexico, things happen mañana, and that doesn't mean tomorrow. That means not today. The United States is so stressed and run, 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 and do everything, and there's something to be said about our accountability. We used to take care of ourselves, but we've been taught not to trust our gut, to trust ourselves. We've been taught to trust the expert, and I got to tell you, no one is an expert in you other than you, right? They look at tests and they don't see you. Days and days and years ago, we didn't have these problems. I mean, we didn't have car accidents and divorces, and media and these things like that. But there was a time when people just died because of a snake bite or some type of accident. There were not the diseases. Life was more easy. We don't have the dis-ease that we have these days that contributes to our health issues. So, and like Josh said, Western medicine, conventional medicine, doctors want to help people. It's not their fault they were trained wrong. We're not here to bash the whole thing. The paramedics are awesome, and trauma surgeons and nurses. The chronic disease, they don't get it because they actually create it themselves. But the reality is, this is a time of remembering. And one of the biggest things Dad would say is health is simple. People are complicated. And we've made life so complicated that we get sick. We are disconnected. And it is funny too. Dad was taught in medical school the human body is exempt from the laws of nature. What? We're a part of it. It's interesting, Sarah, how often Dad would say, people would say, well, what about a colonic? And he'd say, well, I've never seen a deer doing a colonic in the woods. Right? There is so much we can learn from nature. And literally, if for people listening, if we dropped all this junk in our lives and could be in the grass and eat, from where the food comes from, just the thought makes people feel better. So it's a great question. I think at this point, it's time to remember who we are and where we came from. And I appreciate that happening.
Definitely, I really appreciate the remembering aspect, and then that there is this time. It's actually really exciting because yes, there's lots going on, but we can go back to very much those basic principles that underpin health, and they are so simple, and that's what's so exciting about it. And the point that your dad made about the deer not doing the colonic, like that's gold. Because we as humans can make things very complicated, as you guys have mentioned, to fix something or change something. But all we need to do is look to nature as a wonderful example, and to help with that remembering. And there you go, we've got our answer.
It
And
is
yeah, I really
exciting.
appreciate that.
It really is exciting. I think people are ready for it, and even pandemic, people didn't know what to think and they look for answers, and these answers make a lot of sense. And when you start to act this way, you realize how much power we have. And then the last thing I'll say with this, and then you can ask more questions, is this is also how we know that autoimmune does not exist. It doesn't exist in nature. The body will never attack itself. So if we look at health and wellness in general, the huge amount of the population that is diagnosed with a ridiculous amount of autoimmune diseases is totally unnecessary. And basically, it's just the doctor saying, I don't know, your body's attacking itself, they blame you. We're a part of nature, and it doesn't work that way. If the tree doctor said the roots on the tree are having a problem because the bark is attacking the roots, you would think that guy was a moron. But we think the doctors are very intelligent with this. Their body's attacking itself. No, it's not.
Nothing operates in isolation. That's one that we keep coming back to time and time again.
Yep.
Yes.
So can you take us into the origins of the Bigelsen Academy that you both now run, and how your teachings reflect the terrain paradigm? How does this approach differ from more conventional models of health?
That's a good question. And that's where, as Josh was finishing the history, with Dad, the last clinic we had, that was where Dad was on the radio show with George Norrie, and the local dentist didn't like what he heard. And he called the medical board, and the medical board said, oh, Bigelsen, we remember that guy. And they shut us down with no reason other than they wanted to. So what happened was Dad got angry. Josh kind of went into hiding, and I kicked into high gear. This work cannot die with my father. So we put together the Bigelsen Academy so Josh and I could start teaching this work. And sometimes you squash something and it explodes, right? So the clinic was shut down. Josh and Dad, heads in the microscope, booked up 6 months in advance. Tough cases. Everyone with the cancers, they go around the world. You don't come to the crazy blood people as a first resort. So these people go around the world. They get butchered by everyone. They have no money. They come to us. Then Dad works with them. Dad would say he never cured anybody. No one cures you. No one makes you sick. All right. The contagion myth, we know this. Tom Cowan. All right. No one makes you sick. Dad would say cures you. Dad would say the hubris of doctors to think they cure people. We support the body, and the body takes care of itself. So what Josh and I did is we did some private association stuff, and we became an educational association. We educate and empower people so you can take charge of your healthcare. We are not practitioners anymore. What we do with the Bigelsen Academy is we do the consultations. So, educational consultation. People send the blood in, we educate them. How did you get to your moment of dis-ease, and what can you do about it? This type of practitioner, this type of therapy, this type of treatment, then you got to find the person. If we can help you, we will. But this is you finding the right person, and then we get a network, and us also supporting local practitioners. So we teach people around the world. We have the consultations is one thing. We have our courses, two different courses on Dad's both of his books. The holographic blood book, I followed him around with a camera, and I have him talking about every section of that book. Physically, he's no longer with us, but energetically, he is teaching now more than ever. It's really cool. People are getting to know him now more than ever. So we have these two 13-week courses. We read through the book with you. We give you our insight, all this extra. I mean, we've got radio shows from Dad and videos and his friends, the people that he used to treat, the people that we grew up knowing. We had no idea who these people were. And now we're looking back going, what? Who? The crazy stories of Louise Hay, who did Hay House Publishing, and the Joe Dispenzas and the Bruce Liptons and Greg Bradens. Mom one day says, oh yeah, we knew she knew Dad. She was a patient of his when she was living in her car. Okay? And Dad taught her about how emotions affect our health, and she created an empire. The reality is, Sarah, Dad was behind the scenes with so many people that we now know of. All right. And for Josh and I, we're not here to be famous. Dad was rich. It's not about that for us. We want to share this information so people can lead happier, healthier lives. And
Well,
that's
he was
what we did.
rich. He was rich until he started helping people. And then he became a
True
poor
too.
doctor.
Yes. Yes.
So there's no money in the cure. But it's
Right.
interesting to note too that we live in we want to blame everything society on everything else, whether it's the food, whether it's the 5G or the doctors, even our clinic getting shut down. We brought that upon ourselves. I'd been working, Adam was a school teacher at the time. I'd been working with Dad on and off since 1989, but really side by side since 2001. I've been doing the blood for about 25 years now. And Dad and I were tired.
Yeah.
Dad talked about being the rat in the wheel. And I never knew. I had only been doing it for, maybe what, 10, 15 years with him, but he'd been doing it for, 40 plus years at this point in time. He was tired. And we just didn't have the strength to shut down the clinic on our own and let him teach. So the powers that be shut it down for us. So luckily I curled up in the fetal ball for about 2 years there, and Dad, the PTSD really kicked in for him. And Adam, he really jumped into motion and got things rolling. This is where we have this educational system now. So the goal is not to take care of sick people anymore. The goal is to educate people on how not to get sick in the first place. And then if they do, there are steps that you can actually take.
Yes.
So I wish we would have let our father do that years ago, as opposed to just dealing with sick people over and over and over again. But luckily, Adam was around to kind of kick this into motion because I was done. I was not going to continue doing this, especially after seeing how my dad was treated for helping people. But where we're at now is a lot of fun. We generally don't speak a whole lot in the public sector anymore. We tend to like to we speak to people who like the accountability, right? Like I said, we're not here to blame others for our issues. We'll talk about where things have gone wrong a little bit, but that's not a dominant part of our message in any way, shape, or form. So for us, it's accountability. The School of Health is a blast. You saw with the interview with Andy, we have fun. We had somebody give Adam crap at one of our lectures that this is serious stuff. You shouldn't be laughing on stage. And Adam's like, are you kidding me? This is serious stuff. This is why we have to incorporate levity into it. So all
Yeah.
of our interviews are fun. We have a really good group of people. We've got a really nice Aussie contingent that follows us, which is awesome. They wake up at 5 in the morning for our School of Health, which is we feel bad. But we've got our European contingent that shows up at 10 o'clock at night. So, but it's a really nice crew of people. And, for those of you who know me, I don't talk about these things a lot, and I only do it in certain spaces. In public, I don't talk about this stuff at all because people just aren't interested. So we have this great crew of people. There's no shaming, there's no blaming in the group. The courses are super interactive,
Yeah.
right? We try to keep the group small so we can interact and get to know everybody. And it's just a lot of fun. And once you're, educated and empowered to take care of your own health, it can be really, I guess, I mean, you can use that word again, it could be very empowering for you.
Yeah, exciting. It's inspiring, you get the
Yes.
enthusiasm. And that's for us, this is what we do with the Bigelsen Academy, teaching people to understand, not to fight. And this is the dreaded D word now, the discussions.
Mhm.
Bring the questions and we're open, and yeah, it's not good and bad, it's what it is. And we really enjoy this, so that's our platform. The more people there, the merrier.
Yeah, thank you for talking us through your offerings. And it sounds like, over the journey there has been this evolving of what um, you guys are able to provide and support the community or your community with. Um, and so everything does happen for a reason, and things don't happen to us, but for us. So that's all that, the essence is threaded all through that story or the journey that you've just shared. So let's talk about something that's becoming more prevalent, the term green allopathy. Um, what would you want the world to know about the green allopathy approach to health when people begin navigating the wellness landscape? So they've come from perhaps the mainstream medicine realm and it's gone so far and they want to do more or they want to dig deeper or support themselves in a
Right.
different way. But then they're coming, there's this green allopathy space.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
what words of wisdom do you have to share on that front or your
Good.
thoughts?
And Josh, I just want to say quick,
right.
and then
Yep.
you go run with it.
Go
Okay.
for it.
So first of all, easy filters. You don't create health by killing.
Mhm.
Okay. Attacking. There is no attacking. Nothing is attacking you. All right. It is not an immune system. It's a regulatory system. Your white cells, people, are not attacking things. There's a symbiosis happening here. Okay. So with that being said, Josh, go.
Yes. Well said. Yes. There's no such thing as an immune system. It's a regulatory system, and your white cells are part of that regulatory system. So yes, that's a good way of putting it. One, what they're doing is they're just treating the leaves on the tree. Okay. No, they're not paying attention to the roots. Or, God, we use the word root cause all the time, and now it's like a hot word that everybody uses. The root cause is now your bacteria or something stupid, So even that word has been hijacked, unfortunately. Now we still use it, but we add things like this is the true root cause. But yeah, they're basically they're matching a supplement or an herb to the symptom. And if you're treating the symptom, you're missing the forest for the trees.
Or a
We
frequency.
talk what's that? Yeah, we talk about this in homotoxicology, which we teach a lot. And this is the progression of disease. So the symptom pops up. Traditional medicine is going to give you something to stop that. All right. The alternative medicine thinks they're giving you an herb to support that symptom, or they think they're giving you something to kill that bacteria that's involved there. Right. So depending on where they're coming from is going to dictate how detrimental maybe that treatment is going to be for you. All right. So yes, traditional medicine, they're suppressing the symptoms, but alternative medicine, I think what's been really sad, and I think Dad would be really sad about this, especially because he was such at the forefront of legitimizing alternative medicine, to see where it's gone. Okay, it's straight up green allopathy. I don't know what it's like in Australia. We've talked to the Baileys a lot in New Zealand, and there's similar things that are going on there, and it's just sad to kind of see where it's gone. Now, people don't realize the majority of the supplement companies are owned by the pharmaceutical companies,
Yeah.
right? And also, how many people do you know that are taking vitamin C every day and haven't eaten an orange in 5 years? There is a balance to what grows in nature, and that balance does not exist in a pill bottle, whether it's a
Yeah.
pharmaceutical or whether it's a supplement. Herbs can be very complementary, can be very complementary, all right, but they shouldn't be the primary source of your treatment. So you want to support the body. You need to understand what the body is doing. Oh, you're sweating, so here's your antiperspirant. Now you got acne. Oh, let's push that back into your body. And they're pushing the sickness deeper and deeper and deeper down into your body. We've even got to a point where, Dad lectured with Dr. Emoto. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, years ago. And and we've talked with Gerald Pollack a little bit too. And words are power, right? And we're seeing all these alternative herbalists, these master herbalists, right? And they're giving you this herb because it's antibacterial, right? Or they're giving you this because it's antifungal, or the dreaded parasite, which is evil and running amok everywhere, right? Giving you these anti-parasitics. That is not the way nature works, okay? Herbs, plant medicine is pro-bacteria. Plant medicine is pro-parasitic. It's pro-inflammatory. It's supportive of the process. So I actually believe, because words are power, that by calling that herb antibacterial or anti-parasitic, antifungal, you're actually weakening the energy of the herb before it's even put into the person's body. So this is where the intent of the practitioner is starting to dominate. And the intent of the practitioner should be support the healing process, not go against the healing process. So we could talk for days on that one. And a lot of alternative people don't like us because of some of those comments, but you have to understand how nature works before you start messing with nature.
Yeah, you got it. And people have great intentions. It's the same idea, though. Understand, see how the symbiosis is happening. Parasites, everyone's against the parasites. Parasite attaches to a host, the host adapts. A parasite stimulates adaptation. That is symbiosis. Okay? We have lost our adaptability. Parasites are an awesome thing for us. It's not about killing them, it's about understanding why they're there in the first place. So, very simple green allopathy using natural substances to address symptoms. Frequency for a symptom. We go a little further upstream. There's parasites, why? There's candida, why? All right, and it ain't
You
much
gotta
farther
understand the role.
upstream. It's
You
not much
gotta
farther upstream you have
understand.
to go. Yeah.
We've worked with several regenerative farmers, and they say you don't touch your land for a year. You observe your land when you get it. And we've lost our powers of observation. It's very apparent these days. So yeah, before you start playing with Mother Nature, you need to understand Mother Nature.
And sorry, and then yes, you can do more questions. The reality, Sarah, of how many of your listeners, people watching, have been to a naturopath, someone that is working in the alternative natural realm, and they are going to do a candida cleanse and kill your parasites, right? We had one person, it's, the candida is there for heavy metals, right? The fungus is there to process more toxicity. These things are the brilliance of nature. And the one person who comes to us with the extreme chronic fatigue, and the first practitioner candida cleanse, and second one parasite cleanse, third one bioidentical hormones, because they didn't know what they were doing. And we look at just the history form, and there's 10 mercury amalgams that had happened in this woman's mouth. Mercury is a heavy metal, and do you know what candida eats? Heavy metals. So we might as well kill the candida. It's really,
And
it's well, and Josh used to say, uh, alternative medicine had a chance. All right, Josh, you want to say that real quick? He's a little more frustrated with the alternative experience because they had a chance. Conventional medicine,
yeah,
you know what you're getting into.
I'm much more disappointed in alternative medicine these days. Traditional medicine you know what you're getting. You break a bone, that's what they're there for. They don't know anything about chronic disease, so you get out of their hands. But alternative medicine has had a chance to change things, and they're just kind of towing the line. We're even seeing our sisters got our doctorate in Chinese medicine, and the new teachings in Chinese medicine are going against the laws of nature.
Yeah,
And it used to be the one thing I could really rely on was you go to an acupuncturist, they're not going to give you a stupid parasite cleanse. Now you got acupuncturists giving people parasite cleanses.
right.
So that being said, there are still people who understand the old ways. I did a post recently about, naturopath means the pathology of nature, and they're not taught how nature works anymore.
Right.
But the old school naturopaths were taught these things. The new school ones are giving your antibacterials. You always have a syndrome. Here's your ivermectin. This has nothing to do with nature or the laws of nature. So
Right.
yeah, we tend to get a little fired up about it sometimes. But yes, there are these protocols we have, certainly here in the United States. Everybody blames things on heavy metals, right? Heavy metals, it's a problem. Whereas Adam and I, we don't care about the heavy metals. If heavy metals are an issue, why are they deposited into your body? Why is the body not cleaning them? The body's designed, we're being exposed to toxins all day long. And that's what the body's designed to do, is to clean out that garbage. So if they deposit, it's got to be a stagnation. We have to figure out where the stagnation is and why they're depositing there.
Right.
You remove that dam and the body just cleans out the garbage. Okay, you can try to go clean out that debris and do a detox, But if you're not removing the blocks and the barriers, the garbage is to accumulate right back there again.
Yep.
So, but yes, very popular here. Heavy metals are your problem. So let's do a candida cleanse. And if people are into self-abuse, go try a candida diet and see how you feel. All right.
Ah,
All right. So yes, one of Candida's main sources of food is heavy metals. It converts heavy metals to organic material for your body. Very important. Parasites, one of the greatest creations there are. They are there to assist you. And I've said this before. I've never met a farmer who says, "Oh, Josh, the crop didn't come in last year because I got worms." Right? The
yeah,
farmer is always happy to see the worms in the soil. And we are the same thing. Okay, the parasites, they clean, they stimulate, they aerate, they convert heavy metals to organic material. This is a beautiful process that they do,
yeah.
right? So no, your problem's heavy metals. Let's kill your candida and your parasites, which are cleaning your heavy metals, but you can keep the mercury in your mouth, and that's fine. So we can see how far away we've gotten from understanding health, and
Yes.
that's why we preach so much understanding nature. Okay, the way that microbiology works in the soil is the same way it works in your body. And I guess the biggest marker for seeing people who don't quite get it is if they're trying to kill anything you have, then you should go see somebody else. They're trying to kill your bacteria, they're trying to kill your candida, trying to kill your parasites. They do not understand nature, and
Yep.
therefore they don't understand how your body and health works.
You got it. That's a big clue. If they're just trying to eliminate an organism, that's not terrain. They're
Nope,
trying to
just
kill
looking for something to
something.
blame.
You got it.
Red flag there. That's a nice way to differentiate the a germ theory based practitioner and one that's terrain based.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really interesting. And I get to and many of us are learning, and then our mind is opening up.
Mhm.
But then it seems like we come back to the base, and that being nature is we are nature, and that is our beautiful example that we should be following.
Mhm.
Yes. And I just thought of one thing, a connection I just made. We've heard of this victim, perpetrator, savior experience, right? You are not a victim. The germs are not the perpetrators, and the doctor is not your savior. If there's an enemy in the story, that's not terrain.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all on our journey. Realize our father was a left brain surgeon, and he realized things were wrong, so we're all in different spaces, if I knew 10 years ago what I knew now, this is an evolving process. So, we like the open-minded skeptics. We don't like the skeptics who are jerks, right? We like the open-minded skeptics,
You want to see for
but
yourself.
you should never beat yourself up over where you were in the past. Just be happy that we're evolving and learning.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, this leads us to another question about Bigelsen Academy. What is your vision for the future of health education through your academy? You've talked us a little bit about, what you're doing in that education space, but what is your vision now that we're, moving forward, and we've spoken about the green allopathy and the diluting of the holistic wellness space. So yeah, what are you seeing
It's a good
in Bigelsen
question. This
Academy?
is this is the Adam question, definitely.
Yep, he's the big
uh,
picture guy.
the vision is to make this understanding accessible and practical, not just for practitioners, for parents, for families, for individuals. We're building with the Bigelsen Academy. We're part of the University of Terrain, which my girlfriend and I put together. It's a bigger picture even there. We're putting together foundational educational content so people can understand their own bodies. That holographic blood book is the foundation for what we do. For everyone watching, listening, read that book. I really want, Sarah, everyone to know what we know, because now you have a solid foundation to build upon. And we have met with many awesome people. As Andrew Kaufman, I love calling him my friend. He's an investigative guy. And we introduced homotoxicology to him, and you'll see the presentation you just put out. He's actually inspired to want to be a doctor again, to help people, because this stuff makes sense. So for us, the future for me, Sarah, is so bright. For every action, there is equal and opposite reaction. All right. What we have seen over the last 5, 6 years, all the horror that we have been shown, I have seen the opposite. right? Our community has been divided and conquered historically, but we are creating bridges. We are coming together more now than ever. All right. I can I can argue with seniors about hydrogel and nanotech and graphene, or I can teach children how Pete the parasite, my new puppet, is sad because he's trying to help and the world is trying to kill him. Right? And I love this. To me, health is simple. People are complicated. People believe in this, what we talk about, people that don't, and people that don't know what to believe are looking for answers more than ever now. And we have answers that make sense and that give you the power. So more people are coming our direction than ever. And people, Dad was saying this stuff 30 years ago, guys, and people weren't ready for it then. People are ready to take care of themselves now. And it is not rocket science. Okay? This is too easy for most medical doctors because they have spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours being beaten into submission with a theory regarding the germ that is a 100-year failure. They haven't found the cause or cure of one chronic disease in over 100 years. That's a failure. All right? And the terrain, this is not a theory. These are the laws of nature. We're a part of it. So our vision is this, having these discussions, conversations with you, being able to do our School of Health and bring someone like Andrew Kaufman to be with 20 to 30 people that can ask him these questions. And wasn't it interesting that not a lot of people had questions that day? Mm-hmm. Why? Because we're covering bases and people are getting it. So I'm really, we're giving
It's really
people
not rocket science.
No.
It's very simplistic what we talk about. And I think the greatest thing about the work is it takes the fear of the unknown out of the person.
Yes.
Right? Fear controls everything these days. All right, where people are afraid to eat. Right? You need to be aware of your food. People are afraid of 5G. You need to be aware of these things.
And the sun.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things. So, as our dad would say, fear should never be part of the truth. So there's a difference between awareness and being afraid. And that's kind of what we do. There's people would come in to see dad be petrified, and then they would relax once they understood what was going on. They were still coming in for some heavy cancer cases, but once they understood why they got the cancer and then steps to do things about it, then the fear of this is it's out of the body.
Yeah.
And we know that we don't heal in sympathetic mode. Sympathetic is fight or flight. We heal in parasympathetic mode. Yeah. And certainly here in the United States, we're born into a state of sympathetic mode. Just the birthing process we talk about in one of our lectures for a half hour and how barbaric it is most of the time. So our go-to, emotion is fear.
Yeah.
And fear affects your kidneys. Right? So now we're going to start to have kidney issues. So that is, I think, the greatest thing about our work is one, it's just common sense, but a lot of people haven't been taught that. But once you understand how things work, it really makes you look at life in a different way. And there's a great regenerative farmer, I think it was Ray Archuleta, said, if you want to change, if you change the way you do things, you make small changes. If you change the way you see things, you make big changes. And that's kind of what we're here for. But yeah, there is no fear. There's accountability, but there's no fear in what we talk about. And I think that's one of the most important things about what we're trying to get across.
And what a great future, okay? Do you want to believe in you have to build up your defenses and something can attack you? Or do you want to believe that health comes from within? And Sarah, as we work with people, many afraid people, many sick people, things change. And it's really neat because there are very few mysteries for us, the way we look at the blood and health. It all makes sense. And when people come to us and they go, that's it, and you see their shoulders drop, there's no fear, there's no confusion. And people listening, come on. If you understood there was clarity with health, wouldn't you feel better? You would breathe better, just knowing that you don't have to be afraid. And cancer is not going to attack you randomly. It doesn't work that way. The V word, can I say the V word? It's a health thing, right? The viruses. People asked us about it. And when they asked us, I had to really think, Sarah, we never dealt with them. They were of no consequence to us. There was nothing there. Dad never treated viruses because they didn't get us sick. So if we look at things differently, the vision we have of the future is people leading happy, healthy lives. We have the worst business model, guys. We help people get themselves better so you never have to come back to us. And my dad, our father, wanted to put himself out of work. This is not our dad's work. This is work that was given to him to share with the world. And you guys read these books, come to us and ask the questions. You won't think the same again. And go out and start to observe and enjoy it. Life is different that way.
It sure is. Um, and I liked how you talked about the victim, the perpetrator, and the savior. Once I sat with all of that, it made complete sense. Yes, it's completely liberating. It's amazing
Yeah.
to feel that way, to feel empowered and liberated and inspired. And we've used these words a bit during this interview, but it's all true because that truth is within us. So there's something like it strikes a chord, doesn't it? So beautiful. If there was one message you could leave both individuals and practitioners, because we've got both tuning into this particular podcast, what would it be? That one message take home. And we've spoken about a lot, and it's been super, I mean, it's super inspiring. It's lots of gold in there, but one take home.
Good question. Josh?
Well, I mean, outside of the obvious one that, we evolve as nature does, it's observation. Just observe the patterns. Even when we look in the microscope, we're just observing patterns. So, I love the farmers. I'm happy. So I'm just sitting out and watching nature. I'm sitting in the trees. I'm watching what the birds are doing. Okay, the birds are on the higher branches right now, and then you see the predator walk by. So observe how nature is regulating, and then remember that we're part of it. And it's a much happier way to go through life. And we talk about truths, but everybody's got their own truth. So people need to make a decision what their truth is.
Yeah.
If your truth is that you're being invaded by things and these things we can't even see are attacking us and our body's working against us, it's going to be a tough life, right? Would you rather believe that, or would you rather believe those same unseen things are there to work and support you? It definitely, if you understand what your truth is, then embrace it. It's going to dictate your path to health, or it's going to dictate your path to disease. But that observation is key.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say it's, yes, we're a part of the terrain. Um, there are no accidents here. There's no coincidences. These are things are happening for a reason. Slow down and listen to your body. Observe, and you'll
These are
hear.
all, yeah, sorry, these are things that we really delve deeper to in the courses. And we're such terrible businessmen. And we have a course starting in 2.5 weeks. It's a
As we
13-week course. You know, it's based on one of his books, Doctors Are More, oh, there goes Dad. Doctors Are More Harmful Than Germs. But basically, it talks a little bit about the history, but it's more about solutions, the book. It'll
Yeah.
talk about the repercussions of surgeries and things like that. But more important, we talk about what you can do about it. So we're not here to tell people what the problem is anymore. A lot of people are, out there talking about what the problem is. We're more solution based, and that's what the book is about. 13 weeks, it's very interactive. The live webinars are a blast. These discussions that we have just keep going down these cool pathways. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of information. So yes, every once in a while we hear mom in our ear going, just tell them about the course coming up. So that course is awesome. We do have, it's really cool. We're really honored to be on with, the Aussies and New Zealand people again. We've got a nice following from Australia. We love our people in our courses from Australia. They're always characters. They're always asking good questions, and it's really a blast. Now that we've been working with the Baileys a little bit, we're getting some people from New Zealand and same thing. We really love the people in your neck of the woods there. So if we get to see you in our classes or, the School of Health, and it's an honor for us, and we really enjoy it. So that is coming up. It's a lot of fun. If you get questions, certainly you can email us on that. And yeah, we never ever promote ourselves, do we, Adam?
No, good job. We're just so excited to share this information, you know. And that's,
Yes.
yeah, if nothing else, we've got some things. So check out Bigelsen Academy, there is, we want to do whatever we can, Sarah, to meet people where they're at.
Mhm.
So we are accessible. We're out there a little bit, and we're not on everyone's podcast because, we don't always say yes, depending on what's going on and things like that. But we're grateful for people that listen. I wish that we could share this with everybody. I have friends and extended family that we don't talk about this with at all. They're not
No,
interested. And
no.
I have friends that we could have helped. I just found out another friend had passed away, and he'd come across our stuff and ventured that way, and it wasn't for him, and that's his journey. So I'm really grateful for people like you that help us generate the awareness on this.
Yeah. And we
Um,
talk a lot about the philosophies. Dad talked about three divine philosophies being osteopathy, Chinese medicine, or Eastern philosophy, and then homotoxicology. So we really delve deeper into Steiner's four bodies. So we'll get to how the emotion triggers the sickness, but the emotion triggers a physical issue. So we have to work on the physical to work with the emotional. We talk about the spiritual body. We talk about the energetic bodies. So we really go down pretty deep into some of these conversations, so the philosophy of the terrain is very simplistic in a lot of ways, but people also want some specific answers. So we talk a lot about Eastern philosophy, osteopathy, and just aligning the body, dental work and how the dentist can affect your body in a positive way or a negative way, even diet, and a lot of the myths around diet, so we really have a lot of fun conversations. And in the end, it's all about understanding, and then it's about solutions also, and realizing that what worked for me might not work for you, right? We need to figure out everybody's on their own unique path, and that's what we have to figure out.
yes. Oh, I did remember. I just put out a new document, terrainprimer.com. So if you guys go there, we'll talk about pleomorphism and microzymas and the four bodies, and it'll give you a simple little crash course. I forgot I had just put that one together. So whatever we can do to meet people where they're at, if you guys type up our name, you'll see us on with quite a few people for sure. And we really enjoy what we do. I mean, Josh worked with a lot of people, and it took a lot of energy from him, but right now people are really geared for it. They're very receptive. And in the end, don't just take our word for this, people. We don't want you to believe everything we say because we said it. We want you to be open-minded skeptics. It makes sense. Go take action on some of this information. Find out for yourself. To get in a state of less fear and see how it affects your health. No pressure.
Be your own N equals one, your own little experiment, right? And
Yes.
yes, everyone has their own truth, and there are many facets to that. Go and explore it for yourself, tease it apart, keep
Yes.
asking the questions, ask the whys, right? Keep going deeper and asking the whys. And I think we've gained, like, through this interview today, where that was the essence about all of this, isn't it? It's all about, health can be simple, but coming back to things that make sense as well. And I think that's where the whole terrain space lands for many, is it does make sense.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so there's the Bigelsen Academy website, the University of Terrain.
Yes. Universityofterrain.com. There's our courses are there. We have there's an English speaking side, a Spanish speaking side. We have over 1,000 students around the world, 26 different teachers, teaching some pretty amazing things from people that have had real experience, all right, not theoretical experience. And we're growing. We have a course we just did with Dr. Clinton Zimmerman. He's one of less than 40 Bachflower certified trainers in the world. And he's there with us. We've got a few other courses we're putting together now. I've got a children's course we're working on with 40 lessons for children about terrain with songs and stories and stuff for the parents. Josh is putting something together with history forums. We're starting to consult with practitioners that are getting history formed to us, and we're giving them our 2 cents so they can work with their clients. And we've got more stuff going on. So universityofterrain.com, awesome. Bigelsen Academy, awesome. There's a lot of stuff we have that's all supporting the same exact idea here. All right. This is not science, rocket science. This is simple mechanics, looking at terrain and understanding the connections. And for us, physical body, align your car and take pressure off the system. Energetic body, energy flows when there's less restriction. Emotionally, we need tools for our emotional experience because emotions are going to happen to us every day, all day, and we are emotional beings. Conventional doctor doesn't look at that chart and see emotions on there. And Dad's conclusion with the cancers and things, emotional components 1,000% triggering situations with our health. Physical, energetic, emotional, and spiritually, believing that life is happening for you, not to you. That's the basis of the whole experience.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. So, as we come to a close in today's conversation, I want to thank you both, Adam and Josh, for sharing your time, your insights, and the continued legacy of your father's work. We are truly blessed to have you here within our community, and I'm sure this interview will be greatly appreciated. And also a big thank you for all of our listeners and viewers who have tuned into this episode. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next NTA Australia New Zealand podcast when we do the next one. So thank you again, Adam and Josh. Truly big, big, big thanks from myself, but from our community at NTA Australia New Zealand.
Con mucho gusto, with much pleasure. Thank you.
Yes.